Good afternoon, everyone. I can see that our attendees are filing in. We'll just give it a couple of minutes to give more people the opportunity to join, and then we'll get started. Thank you. All right, we're going to jump right on into the information because it is 101 and we want to take advantage of the time that we have here with our panelists. So we'll get right into it so that we can fill this next 59 minutes or so with as much information as we can. Thank you for being here in our final webinar of the year. We're going to address some challenges that businesses face. And today, as we get started, we want you to answer a couple of interactive questions. If you will look into your featured feed, next slide, please. There will be two questions, two statements posted in the featured feed. You will find that in the top right corner of your Q&A area. These two statements will be posted in there, and we'd like for you to like the question that you find is most applicable to you, that represents you in your business journey. Are you thinking about starting a business or have been in business less than 2 years? Or have you been operating your business for more than 2 years? This will help us in knowing kind of the area that our attendees are in as we go along answering these questions. So again, you'll find this in the featured or published feed in your Q&A, and like the question or statement that best reflects you in your business journey. Also, I want to mention that we have some accommodations for the deaf and hard of hearing. This webinar offers live captioning subtitles in several different languages, and you can find that by clicking the captions subtitles and selecting the language of your choice. In addition to the captions, transcripts will be available within 2 days following this webinar. So by the end of this week, Friday, we'll have those uploaded to the Office of the Governor website. To get us started, we would love to have a welcoming from our Deputy Director of Business and Community Development, Miss Annie Dennis. I'll throw it over to you, Annie.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Jarvis. As mentioned, my name is Annie Dennis, and it's my pleasure on behalf of the Office of the Governor to welcome you here today and to have you participate with us in this small business webinar series. We're going to hear from a tremendous lineup of subject matter experts discussing the various challenges that businesses encounter. And the Office of the Governor is committed to making Texas a place for businesses to succeed, and our office will continue to assist small businesses, which are the foundation of Texas's strong economy. I know there's a lot to cover today, so I will hand it back to you, Jarvis. Thanks again.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for being here.
Of course.
We have a second set of interactive questions going to be coming up as well. I can see that a handful of you have answered that, and I can see it's almost a even split between people who are thinking about starting their business or have been in business less than 2 years. As many of you to answer these questions as possible. Again, you can find this in the Q&A. It may look like a quotation bubbles with a question mark, or in the featured feed in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. The next set of questions or statements, excuse me, are I participated in the Governor Small Business Summit event in person. We had 15 of these events, and I'll get to that later. But we'd like to know if anyone who's attending this webinar today was at one of our 15 events this year or one of the events from a previous year, or you have not participated in the Governor's Small Business Summit event. It's okay if you haven't. We'd love to have you in person as well, but we'll take advantage of the technology and use webinars today. So please like the statement that best reflects you. Today, we have 4 panelists who are going to provide their insight over these challenges that businesses face based on the feedback from the small businesses themselves. First, I'd like to introduce and welcome Dr. Bradley Allman. He's the chair of the Management and Marketing Department here at the Texas A&M University, Central Texas. Mr. Allman, good morning / afternoon to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Very glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Texas A&M Central Texas is the youngest member of the A&M University system. We were established only in 2009, and I'm the chair of the department here in Management and Marketing, and it's a really exciting time to be a university in this region. We've got sort of the Waco Renaissance to the north of us and the explosive growth in Austin to the south, and we're kind of right in the middle, and we're seeing all kinds of interest in small businesses and lots of growth, and so it's really exciting to be in the College of Business Administration at this time here. So happy to be here and look forward to talking to you some more.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And we do have a great cross-section, as you mentioned, Central Texas, of subject matter experts from across the state with the 4 gentlemen here. In addition to Dr. Allman, we have Mr. Joe Harper, who's from the Executive Director of the Texas State University Small Business Development Center, or SBDC. Mr. Harper, how are you doing this afternoon?
Yes, I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, Jarvis. Thank you for allowing me to participate. We're looking forward to this engagement today and sharing the little tidbits of knowledge that we have to add to this.
Absolutely. Feel free to tell us a little bit about yourself and the SBDCs. I know we have 2 SBDC representatives.
Well, the SBDC program has been around just under 50 years. We're nationwide in all states. We have, and actually in all territories as well. We provide technical assistance to small businesses. So those that are looking to start a business or are looking to grow a business, we're the place to start with to try to see what's your strategy going to be, help you develop that strategy, and help you implement those strategies as you go along. So. Great program, been around, very strong, and you'll find that there is a lot of similarity across the country from the SBDCs, but we also have autonomy to work with what's going on within our given regions as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. And as mentioned, even though Joe is attached to the Texas State University SBDC, which is Texas State is in San Marcos, he represents here in North Austin as well. In addition to the Texas State University SBDC, we have Rex Steele from the Tarrant County College SBDC. How are you doing this afternoon, Mr. Steele?
Jarvis, I'm on top of the world, buddy. I just want you to know that we are very, very passionate, as well as all SBDCs, working with our clients, looking to start up businesses and all that's involved with that, but also help grow the businesses that are there, expand, be more profitable, potentially establishing an exit strategy where they might be able to sell their business later on down the road.
That's wonderful, and I love to hear that passion, sir. Thank you for being here. And last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Mark Winchester. Mark is representing the U.S. Small Business Administration out of the Houston District Office as the Deputy District Director. How are you doing, Mr. Winchester?
Jarvis, I'm doing great. Before I get started, just want to say thank you to the Office of the Governor's Office for having this event. Want to thank Ms. Annie Dennis, Deputy Director for Business and Community. Want to thank you, Jarvis, as a small business advocate for your leadership in this event as well. Audience, my name is Mark Winchester. I'm with the United States Small Business Administration. We're a federal agency, and we've just celebrating our 70th anniversary. I am Deputy Director, and I have had 20 years of economic development experience, 20 years of federal service, 13 years as Deputy Director, And SBA is known for its 4 C's: capital, contracting, counseling, and crisis.
Wonderful, sir. And I know we're going to touch into at least a couple of those C's today. So thank you for volunteering your time to be here with us today. As our audience may have just seen, many of these offices have served in several capacities working with our office, whether it's in previous webinars. I know many of you have attended webinars in the past, so thank you for that, or in our summit events. Speaking of that, looking at our numbers, it seems like almost, that's almost, 60% or so, 70% of the attendees here have not, did not participate in the summit this year. So we have a lot of people who did not attend those in-person events, whereas 7 of you, it looks like right now, have attended one of our in-person events. This is wonderful, but the reason why we are exploring some of these challenges was based on information that was provided at or in the registration to these summit events. So we have 15 of these events, and we can go ahead and put those locations up. And this is from this year. So these are all in the past now. As of last week, we had our final event in Houston. Across the state, 15 different events in 15 different locations. And in the registration of those events, we added a question. What challenge is your business facing? In fact, we'll have the exact question up on the next slide. And here it is. And so in asking that question, what we found was, you can see the percentages of what people said are the challenges that they're facing. Of course, the number one item there is funding and finance at about 35%. So we definitely want to address that today, as well as really those top 3, which is funding, finance, reaching new customers, which can go alongside with marketing, as well as the workforce challenges. What is surprising there is that 8% of no challenges. And I know from the attendees here, y'all aren't in that 8%. That's the reason why you're here. I don't know who those 8% are, but I'd love to talk to them and see exactly what they're doing in their business. Nonetheless, let's get right into the information and take advantage of this exquisite panel that we have today. And as we get started, we will answer some of the questions that are related to those challenges that were addressed in the registrations. We'll begin with Dr. Allman here. So Dr. Allman, I am a business and I'm struggling to find new customers. What should I do to start finding those new customers?
Okay, this is a really broad question with a lot of possible answers, so I'll focus on a couple of things first. But I also want to just acknowledge the word tremendous and exquisite has been used to describe the panelists. I'm not sure that either applies to me, but I'll do the best I can. The first thing, at the university where I work, based on other places I've been, we have a much higher proportion of students who raise their hand and say, I want to own my own business, I want to be self-employed. And what I see a lot of them struggle with is they focus on what am I wanting to make and what am I wanting to produce, and they don't ask the question who their target audience is. And so that's one of the first things I challenge them is, this may seem counterintuitive, that the first thing you ask to find new customers is who your target audience is. Because I think a lot of new businesses, especially the students I work with, they tend to err on the side of wanting to please everyone, wanting to serve everyone. And my marketing faculty tell me that if you try to please everyone, you're going to please no one. If you try to sell to everyone, you won't sell to anyone. So I challenge my students to look very honestly, what value are they providing and who would actually be willing to pay for it? And those are really important questions to answer honestly. And then, only then, start trying to make connections with those people. In my own work, I helped to start a private school here in the Bell County region back in 2011, and it was it's sort of a part-time private school, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And one of the things we did was we wanted to reach out to homeschoolers, of whom there are a lot in this area, who didn't feel qualified to teach high school, their kids' high school. So we started reaching out to them because we thought our value proposition really served their needs the best. And so that was, again, that's the sort of questions I ask my students. The other thing that I ask, that I challenge people when they're looking for new customers, is to think new as in young, people who are first entering the consumer market for the first time, so the Gen Zs and millennials. And winning the loyalty of these customers when they're younger can create really high customer lifetime value. But a couple things to keep in mind when trying to reach these new customers is they tend not to shop with people and in places they don't know very well. So what I challenge people to do is try to help them get to know you. And for that, you need to use the web, and I'll talk some more about that in a minute. But Google Street View is not really enough. And what it's really helpful is if you can create virtual and walkthroughs and previews that potential young customers can experience on site when they get to your premises. And so this can include the waiting and shopping service areas, pictures of the menu in the dining area, what the parking is like, how they'll be greeted when they walk in the store. Sometimes that can be a turnoff depending on if it's not what they expected. And this is not just for Gen Zs and millennials, but this is maybe particularly applicable to them. And there are some great tools like Matterport that can help create digital 3D walkthroughs using your phone. And so those tools are available. Another thing to keep in mind with these new customers that can attract some of the younger customers is they tend to be philanthropic and community minded. And so this actually is an advantage to small business owners over some of the big box, large corporations. So I would encourage people to consider community support and engagement and charitable giving, and that can be volunteering if money's tight, which I know it often is with small business, and making this information available somewhere on your website. So there is a local sandwich shop here in this region that goes to high school football games and hands out bags of chips and coupons, and they've gotten a huge ROI on that. Lots of new customers they generated from that. If you're a restaurant, what do you do with your leftovers? Do you donate it to a food charity? And that might be something to post on your website. Do you recycle? Do you repurpose? Do you donate? Those sorts of things are useful to know and can attract new customers who are sort of minded that way. But don't be tempted to support every possible cause or to try to please everyone. Do what makes sense for your business. So if you're veteran owned, maybe support the Wounded Warrior Project. If you're woman owned business, then maybe support victims of domestic abuse or something like that. Don't feel like you have to do everything. But again, sort of giving people the welcome mat virtually and maybe talking about what sort of good you're doing in the community can be a way to attract new younger customers. So.
That's wonderful information, developing or knowing and identifying your target audience or market, as well as you mentioned the community effect. So I love that information. You also talked about some tools, which goes into your next question. How do I get started using the web as a marketing tool?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is one where it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. It's such a hyper fragmented space. It's impossible to pick and choose and monitor and track everything. So it can be really overwhelming. But I would say the first thing I would do to use the web is to register with Google My Business. And that's free. It's not difficult to do. And that will put your business on the map, literally, so that you show up in searches. And that can allow customers to leave reviews to which you can respond, and you can set those reviews to maybe automatically email to your inbox so that you can see them when they're posted, or you can do it as a digest so that you're not constantly feeling like you have to monitor it. And I know some shoppers, they don't expect perfection, but they do like to see how do businesses respond when there's been a bad experience or a criticism. Do they put a response and they make it right? So those sorts of things can be important. And there's lots of other data you can get from Google My Business, including what search queries led people to your business, the number of views your profiles had, and so there's lots of advantages for doing that. Again, also you can register with Meta Business. And that you don't have to do a lot with that, but again, you can sort of protect your domain name or your business name in the Meta area, so that if you want to develop it later, you can, but you can at least sort of save that space for yourself. And again, a website is really important. It's not required to have a website to use Google My Business, but because that's a really important part of many customer journeys, that's a nice thing to have up. And there are so many great user-friendly tools for people who aren't tech savvy, like Wix or Squarespace, that you can use that are less than $20 a month, that you can design really attractive and easy to use websites. And in addition to the website giving information about your business, it's a great way for you to collect information about your customers, including how much traffic you're getting, what times of day, what pages do they look at the most, what your conversion rate is, how many customers actually buy something if you're selling stuff through your website, which not every website does that. But I would also consider, and this goes back to maybe the reaching younger customers, if you actually have physical premises, maybe setting up a really attractive space somewhere on your premises that would be a photo opportunity spot where people can do selfies and do Instagram posts. And one of the advantages of doing that is that if they do that, your business will be tagged on that post. And I'm not super Insta person, but I know this is how this works. And if that post gets viewed by people, they'll see your business name and your premises in those posts as they circulate through the social media world. And one thing I would also suggest, and this may seem a little bit self-serving, but for small businesses who are stressed for resources and time and money, reach out to your local university to see if you can find some young and eager and very capable marketing students to help you with some of these things, because they are willing to do that. And not just here, you could go to Texas State or whomever, but that's a real resource that not many people take advantage of. There are a few that do, and we have some great success stories we could share. But just keep in mind, as you're working on marketing, it's not a one-time thing. It is a continual effort to sort of build your brand and the relationships that support it. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
Those are all great points. Great points. And thank you for mentioning that. I mean, using the web and other technology related items to your advantage. I mean, here we are using a technology related item on the web right now. So definitely in your business, you can utilize the same. So thank you so much, Dr. Altman. We'll go right into our next set of questions that we have for Mr. Joe Harper. So Mr. Harper, how do I rebuild my workforce? I've lost some workers and I need to maybe bring on some others. How do I rebuild my workforce?
Okay, good. Well, the short answer is strategically, but there's a much longer situation there. It's a critical part of your overall growth strategy as a business, and requires the same level of strategic, tactical, and operational focus. And I think that when we think about growth, or we think about growth opportunity, a lot of small businesses don't really focus in on, do I have the workforce? Am I going to have the right workforce? Am I going to have the right workforce to make this growth opportunity, take advantage of this growth opportunity? And so as we go through that, the workforce has always been a challenge, but post-COVID, workforce has seemed a systemic change in what employees need and want from their employment. And for those companies fortunate to maintain their workforce, the challenge then is to right-size workforce and the retention of that workforce. But rebuilding the workforce is much more complex due to the difficulty of attracting qualified talent and the cost of onboarding that talent. So begin with learning the full capabilities of the talent you already have. There's a statistic that's floating around that says 80% of businesses do not know the full capacity of the talent they already employ and are unaware of leveraged technology that create efficiencies to expand productivity. So with that being said, coming to terms with that requires a strategic approach for evaluating the current team's talent. Take a look at what you already have and what they're capable of, their full capabilities. And then validate each position, task, roles, and responsibilities. Leverage the technology that will help create better productivity, create efficiencies, and that sort of thing. And then align that talent with tasks and upskilling to fill the gaps. Now, there's a lot of tools. TWC has a lot of tools to help you with upskilling and help you to address the cost of that upskilling and that process. But these are sort of the first sort of guiding steps of what you might want to look at. Now, as you plan growth, be specific about the type of talent that you need. We've evolved, or we've innovated. Many of the businesses, as we came out of COVID, as we were in COVID and came out of COVID, we began to innovate. And what we found through this innovation is that we're doing things differently. We're doing different things, and we're doing things differently. And as we do that, our needs have changed. So are we really trying to build the existing workforce we had before, or the previous workforce we had before, or are we really now building the next generation of workforce? And I think that that's the thing we need to focus on, is that what's the next generation of workforce look like for us? And let's begin to build towards that by taking these steps and these evaluations. Now, the SBDC is working with TWC to build a pool of business advisors versed in the various program offerings that they have. And that is focused on developing a workforce strategy for business clients. So in the near future, I hope we'll be seeing more and more SBDCs with the capacity to sit down with individual businesses and help them develop a workforce strategy going forward. So it's not just about how am I going to get my capital or how am I going to market my business, but how am I going to build my workforce and what's the strategy for doing that going to look like? So to build the next generation of workforce, this is the first steps you need to work through.
That's wonderful information, and I'll add to that. The workforce, so the Texas Workforce Commission also has workforce development boards within it. If you are solely just looking for talent, Workforce Solutions cover every part of the state of Texas. So you can find your workforce development board, and definitely if you are looking for talent, the Workforce Solutions are a great place to seek and find that talent. Even state agencies such as our own have used such agencies to fill vacancies. So definitely, there's a lot out there for workforce. And thank you for mentioning, Joe, how workforce is transitioning, and we have to be forward thinking on how the work that we do may change going forward. So the follow-up question to that is, how do I retain my workforce? Not just how do I get someone, how do I keep them once they're there?
Well, this is a much harder question to answer, and because what COVID shutdowns triggered was a reassessment of personal values, highlighting quality of life and reshaping how employees feel about their jobs and the impact they have on their families, their personal work, their lifestyle, the environment they spend most of their productive time in, and satisfaction they receive from performing at work. So what's occurred is a paradigm shift. To address this, you need to understand what the new workforce standards have become. Traditional roles are phasing out, and culture is the new norm. Retention is tied to the culture that leadership creates, and in many cases relies on an evolution of that leadership. So culture motivates productivity, increases personal value, and recognizes individual and team achievements. A strategic approach to fostering retention begins with creating a winning culture where transparency, clarity, innovation, values, professional development, accountability, and trust are equally as important as bottom line.
That's wonderful, Joe. Thank you so much. And retention is important. And we have seen a lot of change since the pandemic. Again, same here within state agencies as well. So we'll move to our next set of questions, and I realize we're at 1:28. We want to allocate as much time as we can to the live Q&A to give you, the audience, a chance to ask your questions that you came here to do. And so we'll have at least 20 minutes to do that to close out the last third of this event. So for our next one, I'd like to welcome Mr. Steele here for a couple of questions as well. So Rex, how important is it to understand your business financials?
Well, we've had the opportunity of advising and coaching a lot of businesses out there. And what we have found is that a lot of these businesses, I call them technicians because they're subject matter experts in what they do, but they really are defaulting in the area of understanding their financials, of how to run and manage their business. A lot of these folks, they don't understand how to read their profit and loss statements. They don't understand their balance sheets. They don't know how to correlate that into making the changes that's needed inside the business and helping the business grow. A lot of folks, if you're familiar with profit and loss statements, that top line is your revenues coming in each and every month for the whole year. A lot of folks thinks that if you're increasing that every month, that's growth for your business. What I try to advise folks is that, yes, although that is important, but sales cost money. So if you want to look at the true growth of a business, you look at the bottom line, which is your net profit. That growth right there tells you how your business is expanding and that you're making money in your business as well. Good running businesses normally run between 10 and 20% in the net profit range itself. But the point is that cash flow in a business is the heart of a business. In order to sustain that business for future growth, You got to keep your cash flow up each and every month. Try to keep at least 3 months cash flow available, because things are going to happen in your business. Things are going to hit you hard. You're not going to see it coming, and you got to be prepared for something like that. Case in point, 2008 hammered a lot of business out there because they didn't have a strong enough foundation to sustain such an issue like that impacted so many businesses, so many people. I saw a lot of businesses go under. So I always try to advise folks to get the education you need. We will help at the SBDC help people understand their financials, because a lot of times they may have inventory issues in there where they got so much inventory, they're not moving it. That's costing people money. You know, a quick way of doing that is turning that inventory over, take a cut on that profit, take a loss on it just to get rid of it, so you can bring other products or services to the table that can continue making money for you as a quick turnover and stuff like that. But the point is that if you're looking to be in business, you should be thinking about growing your business. In order to grow your business properly, it's very important to understand what your financials are telling you about your business. When is it time to hire? When is it time to expand? When is it time to hire more people and maybe get into another building or something of that nature? Your financials will tell you when that time has come. And the point is, when that time has come, are your financials set up enough to the point where you're ready to get a loan to expand? Now, I've dealt with a lot of companies that like to hide all their profits into their tax returns and stuff to show no profits and stuff. There's twofold problems with that. One is, if you're needing to grow your business and you're showing negative profit for year after year, you're not going to get a loan from the bank to grow your business because you don't have any money to pay back the loan. I hear this over and over and over from bankers and stuff as well. So you need to show your profit. You need to pay your taxes. The other part of that is, as an exit strategy for your business, is very important in order to get the greatest value for your business when you go to sell it, is from year to year to year, continually growth in your business, showing the expansion, showing the processes being improved, increasing workforces, other factors there in order to get the highest value when you decide to possibly go sell your business and stuff like that. But it's critically important that people get the education they need to understand their financials so they can manage their business, so they can be sustainable to grow their business up the road and eventually sell it.
That's wonderful information. And I know that I can attest for all the small business owners and entrepreneurs here that oftentimes in your entrepreneurial journey, you feel like you're alone, and that knowledge of when I've reached a level to experience growth, add on that extra worker, add on a new product or service line. Maybe I don't realize that. And so I want to mention that this is a great opportunity to say that the last two individuals who have spoken, between Mr. Harper and Mr. Still, are with the Small Business Development Centers. So you don't have to go through this alone. You have SBDCs who can help you analyze your financials, analyze where you are, or even through SCORE, which is a acronym for the Service Corps of Retired Executives, and you can take on a mentor who can help you have another set of eyes on your business, on your financials, on the different steps that you're taking with your business, and taking their expertise to help you in finding this. You don't have to be alone. I know we all feel like we got this. It's ours. It's our baby. But yes, taking on some information from these at no cost in many cases, services and information from others can help you in determining those next steps. So thank you, Mr. Still. Your next question. So what business strategy to implement, and when and how to get to grow your workforce? How can I go about that with these strategies and growing my workforce?
Yeah, that's very important for any and all businesses in itself. I get questions all the time. When should I hire some people to come on board? What type of positions should I be hiring first? How should I prioritize this toward my business? Well, there's several factors that's involved here. One is basically the simple answer to this is that when you start getting backlog over and over and over again, it's time to start growing your business. It's time to start hiring people if your financials approve it. That's the other factor that's involved here. Your numbers got to be to the point where you can afford to hire someone where they're bringing in enough money to cover all of their costs, plus money to increase the value of the company in itself, more so than that. I've had cases where should I hire an administrator or a marketer, or should I hire a salesperson? Well, that's up to each and every individual as far as identifying what has that greatest value to the business in itself on the priority of you hiring someone. Case in point, if you're a top-notch person as an owner that can go out there and bring business to the table, it's more cost effective for you to hire an administrator to handle all the stuff you have been handling, taking that time away for you to go out and market your company. Bring them on board so you can go out there and start bringing more business to the table. Same thing with employees that you might want to hire. You know, do we want to hire a journeyman or do we want to hire an apprentice? Well, what value will it bring to the company? With the highest priority is, can that person that's a journeyman go out there and bring enough business to the table to increase it to the point where you might even need to hire an apprentice to help subsidize what that person's doing so you can catch more job orders as they come up as well. You know, the important part about growing your workforce, it brings more value to your company as well. But you got to stay on top of it month after month after month, because there's going to be gaps in there where some months may be less work coming out, some months more work coming out. So you got to keep that balance in play here as far as not having too much of a workforce that's costing you money with less revenues coming in. So it's a quick balance you have to strategize out over time to make sure you got the right workforce and then grow the business accordingly.
Also great points. So there's not going to be an email that shows up and says it's time to grow or time to downsize. That doesn't happen. No,
no, I'm afraid not.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I do want to say at this time the live Q&A will be open. So this is what many people have been waiting for. So now you can submit your questions. We'll address those and ask those here momentarily after we hear from Mr. Winchester. But now you can submit your questions. Do pay attention to that featured or published feed. Check see if your question has already been asked, and like the questions by your fellow attendees that you would like us to ask our panel. That's how we will prioritize. So the questions with the most likes will get asked first. We'll try to answer as many of those as we can in the last little bit quarter of this event, but unfortunately we will not, well, may not get to all questions. We'll try to. We'll do a rapid fire at the end. So in closing with our frequently asked questions, I'm going to go over to Mr. Winchester. So Mr. Winchester, all right, so you represent the SBA, the Houston District Office. What are some of the advantages of SBA financing, and what would be the first steps?
So Jarvis, thank you so much. Jarvis, the why, what your audience needs to know, why should they even consider SBA to begin with, is the guarantee. The biggest issue that small businesses face is not having collateral. Banks require a 1-to-1 ratio. For every $1 you borrow, you need $1 in collateral. Most small businesses don't have the collateral. And so what can be used in lieu of collateral? It's the SBA loan guarantee. Secondly, Jarvis, lender. You don't go to SBA to get the SBA loan guarantee. You visit your local SBA district office website and you go to the district office lending report to view the SBA lenders in your district. Some other factors to consider when it comes to the advantage of SBA is more credit flexibility, Jarvis. With the SBA loan, the SBA loan guarantee reduces the risk for lenders, making it easier for small business owners to qualify for an SBA loan. Another advantage, Jarvis, is longer repayment terms. We talk about maturity. Maturity is just a fancy word for period. And SBA loans can offer, Jarvis, repayment periods of 10 years for working capital and equipment and up to 25 years for real estate. Another advantage, Jarvis, is the wide range of loan amounts. SBA loans can vary from $500 with microloans all the way up to $5 million with 7A and up to $13,750,000 with our 504. Another advantage, Jarvis, is setting the maximum interest rate. SBA loans have an interest rate cap that vary based on the loan size and maturity, but generally are lower than other types of business loans. Now, keep in mind, Jarvis, with a SBA loan, typically it is variable interest rate. Also, Jarvis, with microloans, there's continued support. Not only do they provide the microloan, but they also provide counseling and education. You know, Jarvis, you also asked about next steps, and you also mentioned about the SBA resource partners, and really do appreciate that. What I would mention to your audience is, where can they connect with an SBA resource partner? Just visit www.sba.gov/local assistance, plug in your zip code and find your resource partner. Now, Jarvis, it's critical. Once they connect with an SBA resource partner, then that partner, such as the SBDC, which we have here today, the SBDC counselors can review with you SBA eligibility, that you're a U.S. citizen, permanent legal resident, you're a for-profit business, you're located in the U.S. And these SBA partners, such as the SBDC, SCORE, Women's Business Center, can also advise the right loan program that would be appropriate for them. SBA 7A, we have nearly 24 loan guarantee programs. Our partners also, Jarvis, can help find and identify a lender. Jarvis, just like businesses, lenders have specific markets or interests that they have, and the SBA resource partners can advise them which lender, depending on which industry you're in. The next step, Jarvis, is that they need to prepare their documents. They need to have their paperwork. They need to have their business plan. They need to have financial statements, tax returns, personal and business credit. And the SBA resource partners, such as the SBDC, can then help them. And then finally, Jarvis, they need to submit their business plan. And there are resources out there, such as the SBA Lender Match Tool. Here in Houston, we have other programs, including in-person lender matchmaking events.
That's a ton of wonderful information. And I want to highlight some of the things that you mentioned as far as the matchmaking, the lender tool. So you also mentioned about there may be a lender better for you in your industry or your area compared to other lenders that have provide the SBA tools. So that's wonderful, the matchmaking on the lender side. I also want to highlight, even though Mark here represents the Houston district office, we are fortunate as Texans to have 6 district offices within our state. So we have the San Antonio district office, we have the Rio Grande Valley district office, the El Paso district office, the Dallas-Fort Worth district office, and the Lubbock, in addition to Houston. So no matter where you're at, even though those are 6 different cities, they will serve your area. So they have regional maps beyond the city limits, of course. Definitely having a relationship with your SBA district office and or some of those resource partners, as he mentioned, the SBDCs, the Women Business Centers, SCORE, are wonderful tools. Again, most often at no cost to you, which I think we can all budget that into our finances, no cost. So thank you, Mark. Your second question here, what tools are available to increase the revenue for my business?
You know, Jarvis, thank you so much. We've been talking about this, but I'll reiterate, one of the first tools is to utilize the SBA resource partners. You know, we have SBDC here, part of this event, and there are 1,000 SBDCs across the country, and they can assist with business planning, financing. And another great tool is SBDC.net. You can get customized market research from the SBDC through the SBDC.net clearinghouse, international trade, human resources, HR. And then also, Jarvis, we have SCORE. SCORE, we have over 300 chapters, 13,000 mentors, have expertise in 63 industries. They have subject matter expertise in marketing, in legal, and accounting, logistics, retail. And then also, Jarvis, we have 137 women business centers across the country. And as you mentioned, Jarvis, across the state, we have women business centers in El Paso, in Arlington, in the Rio Grande Valley, in Houston, San Antonio. And the WBCs primarily counsel women-owned businesses, and they work with startups and existing women-owned businesses, and they can help women-owned business with WOSB certification. You know, I also mentioned the market research and the SBDC net. The SBDC net has snapshot reports. They have customized research. They have ring analysis. You know, Jarvis, when I talk to clients, I also mention to them, just like you get a tune-up for your car, you should get a financial tune-up. And the resource partners such as the SBDC, they can provide a financial ratio tune-up analysis and look at the financial statements and see where there are opportunities to improve your bottom line. They can also assist with funding options. There's so many resources out there to help small businesses.
Thank you, sir. I do want to say, and as I draw attention to the Q&A, I realize we've got 15 minutes remaining in this event, so we're going to go through as much as we can. I do want to say we have Elizabeth Charles, who is also with the Houston District Office of the SBA. She is putting some resources into the chat as well. I see she has mentioned, even in addition to some of the organizations, the VBOX, which is the Veteran Business Outreach Centers, again, services and products for our veteran community, and she provided a link to local assistance. So actually one of our liked questions that someone submitted anonymously is, are there any local services available who can assist small businesses in advertising in local events? So I think that this is really a question about what kind of marketing assistance is out there. Our marketing professional here on our panel today is Dr. Allman. I'm going to defer to you to see if you have any ideas about how someone can address some of these ways of getting assistance with advertising.
Sure. As far as a dedicated organization, I don't know of any other than the local Chamber of Commerce that you might have. We're part of a couple of them with Killeen and Temple and with Georgetown even. And they're always sponsoring events where you can get your name out there, and that would be, so they've got all sorts of lunches and special guest speakers and community events where your business can be featured if you're a member. Other than that, I'm not aware of any dedicated local service that can help small businesses promote. Economic development corporations might have something, but local chambers of commerce is probably where I'd start.
That's a great point. So the local chambers are typically going to be member-based, and of course, they're going to promote those members who are a part of it. It also can serve as a conduit for networking. Maybe you do some B2B, business to business. Maybe there's another member who you can provide your product or service to, or vice versa. They can be in your supply chain. So Chambers of Commerce is a great place, and they do a ton of events. Our chambers here in the state of Texas, we partner with them in that list of 15 events that you saw earlier. Typically our community partner for those events are Chambers of Commerce. So, and we have those events in those communities with those chambers. So that's a great point, utilizing your Chamber of Commerce. Another, this is going to vary from community to community, is taking on the assistance of a marketing specialist, a professional to help you build that strategy. Can be something you can do.
I will also add. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
I would also say I mentioned what felt like a shameless self-promotion, but we do have marketing students who have done internships who were hired by local small businesses, including startups. We had recently this semester a ketamine clinic was opening, and they said, "Can you give us a marketing student to help us market this?" And we'll let them sort of take the initiative and give them some incentives, and they helped them launch a new business from the very beginning. And so that's another resource that would be that wouldn't cost you anything necessarily. So some of our students will do internships for credit, some will want payment, but you can figure that out. But that's one resource that's available. And I think most communities would have a junior college or a four-year university that could have students who might be willing to help with that. So.
Sure, utilize the tools that you have, and we have a abundance of educational institutions. Mr. Winchester, you have some additional comments?
Yes, just wanted to share or mention the SBDC. They have specialists, and they have specialists in website design. They have specialists in sales. One of the things, Jarvis, that they really need to work on is have a sales. Part of their business plan should be a sales plan, and the sales plan, the SBDC can assist with that. What is their strategy? Is it publicity? Is it television? Is it radio? Is it newspaper? Also, the SBDC and SCORE can also help them with the social media strategy. And SCORE, they have mentors who have expertise with online marketing, with sales strategy. So you will also want to utilize the SBDC for website development, social media, sales strategy. Utilize SCORE in mentoring. They have experts in marketing and sales and website development as well.
Perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. As we go into this last 10 minutes, I still want to encourage our audience to submit any questions. Again, we're going to do rapid fire in this last 10 minutes because I want to hear and make sure that we are addressing the questions that you want to be addressed. Right now, the next question is kind of broad. Again, another anonymous question is are there any changes for 2024 that small business owners need to know about? Again, very broad. Actually, I think this is an opportunity, Joe. We had discussed individually about, these challenges. The topic of this webinar is challenges that businesses face, and it's based on feedback that we received throughout this year and what challenges businesses have faced in the past. Well, looking forward, Joe, you and I had that conversation. Can you talk about some foreseeable challenges?
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce put out their top 3 challenges ahead for small businesses, and they're really about the inflation effect, which is rising interest rates, unstable revenue streams, and supply chain disruption, which are still going to be issues that we're going to have to work through. I mean, we had a global collapse of the supply chain during COVID. So there's a rebuilding that supply chain. It's not just, let's just ramp it back up. It's a whole new assessment of risk and evaluation of cost and risk and the other things that are related. But we looked at what might be those challenges as a result of the COVID effect. And so our research tells us that workforce is still going to be a challenge. The recruiting talent is going to be a challenge. The evolution of culture becoming having prominence in the decision making in a business. Avoiding burnout because we're doing more with less. And we'll continue to do more with less until we can solve the problem of workforce. And so I spend a lot of my time trying to address, well, how do you prevent burnout, and how can you actually see when it's about to trigger? And so you learn techniques to be able to adjust to that. The other thing is digital transformation, and this works a little bit in Bradley's area. Is that positioning the digital footprint of a business, where what's changed is the next generation of customers, they don't shop and buy the same way that the traditionalists do. They look for you before you even know they're in the hunt. And they do that by following your digital footprint. So if you don't have digital footprint, you're not really positioned as a business to be successful going forward. There's other things too when we think about, and I know that Brad talked about this, is that the impact of using the websites, the digital presence, and how are we measuring that? How we know we're getting a full impact from that? The sort of thing of vanity metrics versus real digital impact. So just because I'm there doesn't mean that I'm going to get the full benefit of what I hope to do. And the other thing then is, every tool that you use on the web has algorithms specific for those tools. And those algorithms may not necessarily be the best for your particular business or your particular needs. So you need to sort of investigate what the background of the algorithms. So if you're going to use TikTok, or you're going to use Twitter, or you're going to use some of the other platforms that metaverse, you need to understand what's the value. The algorithms were developed to drive a certain value. You need to understand if that value is in line with what you want to do. We talked about supply chain risk, diversity in supply chain, stability in supply chain, and capacity in supply chain. And capacity is a big question mark for us right now because as we look at, we're shifting our supply chain from overseas to our offshore to nearshore, onshore, and getting it closer to us. We're also starting to look and say, okay, well, what's the capacity of those suppliers? And if we plan to grow, we need to understand what the risk looks like in that supply chain. And there's a lot of risk, and we are working through, how do you calculate that risk and what do you do next? And then access to capital. Cost of capital is always going to be an issue, but it's going to be more of an issue until we get this inflation thing under control. Risk assessments have shifted in the banking community. A lot of the banks have started to take a look at risk differently than they did before, asking for more down, maybe not wanting to participate in certain industries because those industries have a higher level of risk. And then the use of capital, how might you be using capital going forward? So those are what we see as the challenges, the future challenges. And a lot of that's here now, but you're going to really start to see a lot more work as we go forward over the next 3 to 5 years in these areas. AI is going to be a real impact on small business. And I'm not sure that any of us really understand what that impact is going to really look like until we're in the throes of it. So
great points. And I was hoping you were going to say those 2 letters, AI, as that has been hot ticket here lately. And I think it's so new now that we don't know the effects of it later and how that will impact enterprise. So AI, cybersecurity has been hot in the past leading up to now, and how those 2 things, the world becomes even more virtual stemming from the pandemic, really, and introducing AI and cyber threats and such. So those could be some changes coming forward. But again, utilizing things such as AI that isn't scary to you, use it as a tool, can be a benefit to you. If you take those things, that technology and those trends of the world, and use it to your advantage, you can benefit from it. Any other changes as we're closing out here?
Jarvis, this is Mark. It was an excellent question. Just want to let you know, Jarvis, for 2024, SBA has waived the guarantee fee on loans of $1 million and less. So your audience can take advantage of the SBA guarantee without having to pay the guarantee fee on SBA guaranteed loans of $1 million or less. Number 2, Jarvis, SBA has reduced the requirements on small business loans. Loans of $500,000 and less have gone up 14%. Loans of $50,000 and less have gone up 20%. And also, Jarvis, there may be someone in the audience that would like to acquire a business, and SBA has changed the requirement. You no longer have to, with the 7A, have to acquire 100% of the business. Now you can acquire less than 100% of the business utilizing 7A. Also, Jarvis, this year, SDB, small disadvantaged business contracts, the goal is 15% of all contracts going to small disadvantaged businesses by 2025. Another change in the works is veteran-owned small business, increasing the goal of contracts for veterans up to 5%. Also, Jarvis, $1 trillion in the infrastructure bill. $1 trillion, it's being passed to the states, and there are state opportunities here in the state of Texas, $28 billion in highway construction. Also, for those businesses interested in contracting, not only, Elizabeth mentioned about VBOC, there's also Apex Accelerator that can help small businesses in contracting, in federal contracting, state contracting, and municipal contracting.
That's, again, y'all keep on mentioning things that are in my head. So thank you for mentioning the Apex Accelerators as well, formerly called the PTAGs, if anyone's familiar with those. Again, government contracting is another area that we haven't even explored. But thank you so much, Mark, for throwing all of those great things that are coming and happening now, changes for 2024. We are at 1:59, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to provide some contact information, some resources here to close out this event. I know we did not get to everyone's questions. In fact, I'm going to very quickly address a question from Emma. which is what is the health of tourism in Texas? I am seeking to start a travel-related business in the Dallas area. Travel is wonderful in Texas. Not only are we seeing a lot of businesses wanting to move to the Lone Star State, we're seeing a lot of people wanting to invest their time and money on vacations here in the Lone Star State. So we are a part of the Economic Development and Tourism Department within the Office of the Governor. And of course, with that tourism component, we have Travel Texas falls within our umbrella. Their website, traveltexas.com. It is com. traveltexas.com. You can go there and learn a lot about the travel industry. And if you are interested in becoming a travel related business, definitely connect with Travel Texas within our office. So I'll go for it with some contact information. You can see that I realize now I never introduced myself. My name is Jarvis Brewer. I'm the small business advocate here within the Office of the Governor. I'm 1/3 of the small business team. You can see Brian Roller here, as well as Nydia Ramirez, who has been behind the scenes helping with the clicking of these slides. That is our direct contact information. Feel free to give us a call, not right now because I'm on a webinar, but definitely feel free. I know we did not answer everyone's questions, but we're here to serve you. Also, we have some additional resources. I get that you cannot click on those links, but those are on our main website, which is gov.texas.gov/business. You can find our small business one, gov.texas.gov/small business. And then our events calendar, I shared that QR code earlier, but that's where we will update in about a month. So mid-January, we'll update that list of 2024 event dates and locations. You can find all of our events, both in person and webinars, as well as our trade missions and trade shows. And if you're interested in those, definitely connect with us as well. But they are all uploaded to our events calendar. Also, our Governor's Small Business Resource Portal, which is really a fourth member of our team. You can find a lot of information by utilizing that portal, funding, workforce, marketing, even networking and chambers of commerce that we mentioned earlier are on that portal. And you enter a few questions, it will give you those resources specific to your needs as well as specific to your area. So what are close and nearby to you. Lastly, we have some contact information of our panelists and their organizations. So if you would like to connect with any of them, they were gracious enough to provide their numbers as well as websites to where you can learn more about their organizations and connect with them individually. So in closing, I want to thank Dr. Allman, Mr. Harper, Mr. Steele, and Mr. Winchester for providing their time and expertise today. There are many other SBDCs across the state. And again, I get it, you cannot click on that link, but you can find your local SBDC. And definitely, I encourage you to make a relationship with them and help them be a tool, a resource throughout your entrepreneurial journey. I want to wish you all a happy holidays, Merry Christmas as we close out this year. We look forward to reconnecting with you both virtually and in person in 2024. Thank you again for being here today. Have a great rest of your day and week.
Take care. Bye-bye.